So thank you very much. We are not quite going to start the presentation. We will in about 2.5 minutes. My name is Leone Jose Bicchieri. I'm the Executive Director of Working Family Solidarity. And for the attendees, you probably all know this, but just to remind you, this is a Zoom webinar. So unlike a meeting, not everyone has audio and video capabilities. So I do as the moderator, and the 2 co-presenters, and also 3 other folks who are joining us as part of the discussion. And then you might see the interpreter, either their face or sort of their logo. So we'll figure that out in a minute. And we're gonna have to figure out, yes, hi, Brianna. So I can see you in the chat, or I can see what you're writing. You can write in the chat. And we will start in just a couple of minutes, but bienvenidos, esperen unos minutos más. Por favor, vamos a empezar muy pronto, okay? Hey, Eva, we might have a little bit of an issue here because I still have no, they have changed how this all works, unfortunately, quite a bit, and there's no globito. No tengo yo una función de interpretación.
Yeah, I'm looking through the.
So we may have a little bit of a
options.
problem here, folks, and I'm very unhappy about this. We thought we had figured this out ahead of time. I've been working on it lately, but the interpretation function has not yet come up. So give me 1 minute, okay, while we see if we can get this straightened out. Hang in there for a minute, folks. Espérense unos minutos. Vamos a ver cómo hacemos esto. Give me just a second. Yeah, I reread all the agreements with Zoom and all, but there was no mention of anything like this. So
I think if it's not an option, maybe it's not. I'm trying to see if I can do it through the back end, but yeah,
I'm looking back in the account, but I don't see anything here that yeah, I just don't see anything here that helps me to figure it out. I have signed you both in as interpreters. Enable language interpretation. There's a green check on it, so it's supposed to be working. And I don't know why it's not. And I'm really sorry about that. My goodness. That is a big problem. Goodness gracious. Yeah. So I'm back in the Zoom account for this webinar. Enable practice session, Q&A, enable language interpretation, check. And it's on. And you and Chris are listed as interpreters. Well, goodness gracious. I would hate to go on without it. You might have no choice. I am open to any advice. Glad to be joined. I have to be driving, so will not be able to talk. Gotcha, Chris. Chris, you're bilingual, thank God. Well, I'm looking here and I'm looking on the apps.
Yeah, if it's not on the toolbar, I don't think we have access to it. It seems we could try to set up a conference call number. That will take a little bit, so we will probably need about 15 minutes to like.
Let's do this. I'm trying one last thing on my end. I'm not sure it's going to work. But why don't you well, here, hold on. Okay, let's just give me one last chance here. I'm not a tech wizard. I'm trying to see though if I can figure this out. Give me one more second. I'll try the last thing I know, and then I don't know what we'll do. We may have to just do some basic translation and not translate every word, which I absolutely hate to do. But give me 1 second. Okay. One second here. Hang in there, folks, just another second, please. Very sorry about this. My goodness. Okay, hold on. Well, for whatever reason, folks, we do not. I'm sorry about the silence. I'll try to say something so you know that we're still here. Don't know what to do. It is still saying that our interpretation function is fine, that we've enabled language interpretation, and that everything is fine. And obviously, we don't have language interpretation. And I don't know what happened, and it has never happened before. And so we got a problem. Well, I'm looking to see if maybe could people call into a Google Meet or conference call. I'm not sure I can get that together on time, and we're already about 5 minutes behind our meeting time. Goodness gracious. I'm so unhappy right now. Well, let me see if anything else came into my box. Goodness gracious. Okay. So the only last thing I can think of is we all have to go out and then try to come back in, but I'm not sure we want to try that. Well, Eva, here's the best thing I can think of, which is highly imperfect. I think we're going to go ahead, and I apologize. Lo siento mucho. Vamos a seguir. No tenemos la interpretación simultánea. The only thing I can think of, Eva, is that we can do some. We'll go ahead in English, and then what we will do is translate some of it into Spanish after a couple of statements. And I just don't know what else we can do beside doing that. And I'm so deeply sorry. Mine shows up as app. It no longer shows up as what I need. It shows up as apps. And it simply says I have to go into the web account and kind of find the app there. And I've done that, and it shows us as being connected to interpretation. Both interpreters assigned, and it's functioning, but it's simply not. So I'm not sure what else we can do aside from that. So Eva, I think that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and do a few things bilingually. And then for those of you, we do have Marvin and Kevin, Anzures and Luis. What I'm going to ask each of you to do is say what you're saying in English and then Spanish. Okay. If you don't say everything in Spanish, that's okay, but please do the gist of it. Maybe talk for 3 or 4 sentences, then talk in Spanish. And then for Kevin Johnson and Sabir and Illie, I don't know if any of you speak Spanish, but I think we're going to cut short a little bit, Illie and Kevin, your presentation by a couple minutes so we can do at least some Spanish translation, because we do have, I checked the attendees and I know the participants, and we do have a number of folks who will need the Spanish translation. Let's see how many. Actually, not that many. Hold on. Karina will, Esmeralda will. Okay, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna for those who are bilingual, speak in English. After 4 or 5 sentences, translate into Spanish, not everything, but the gist of what you're doing. We have 2 people who speak almost only Spanish. The rest speak English. And those 2 will speak, Esmeralda and Karina speak some English. So do that. And then Eva, when Illie, Kevin Johnson, and Sabir, when you speak, speak for 4 or 5 sentences, wait a second, Eva will give a gist of that, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and then we'll keep going, okay? So we're just gonna do the best we can. So it's gonna be mainly English, but we'll give brief summations in Spanish. Lo que vamos a hacer para empezar es que vamos a hacer todo en inglés, y porque casi todos aquí hablan inglés, pero algunos, creo que son 2 personas que tal vez hablan más español. Entonces, para ustedes no vamos a traducir cada palabra, pero sí vamos a traducir un poco de cada sección, ¿ok? Para que sigamos adelante. Y discúlpenme, no sé por qué no está funcionando. Todo dice que está funcionando, el aparatito, pero no aparece en mi pantalla. So we're going to go ahead. Welcome. Thank you for attending on youth, building solidarity, youth of color, building solidarity for better jobs. Again, the interpretation function isn't working. Mainly we have English speakers. We are going to do some Spanish translation, so bear with us so that we can help a couple folks that will need that. I'm going to jump right into it. You can look at who we are on our website, Working Family Solidarity. We're uniting folks of different backgrounds, especially low-income workers of color, to fight together for equitable development, and we focus mainly on jobs and housing. And tonight we're going to have 2 co-presenters. It's kind of second in our series of youth of color talking about jobs, Illie Benton and Kevin Anzures. Those of us who speak Spanish and English are going to give a brief summation of our statements in Spanish at the end, because most of the folks do speak English, almost everyone, except a couple people on this call. And then we'll give a brief summation in Spanish. Those who speak English speak about 4 or 5 sentences, and then Eva will come on and translate the gist of that. Maybe even you can go 6, 7 sentences, but then stop. She'll give a summation and we'll keep rolling, and we'll all just do the best we can. If that ends up taking us instead of 7:30 to 7:35, 7:40, and people are interested, we'll go longer. If not, we'll stop right at 7:30. So we're going to get right into it. I'm going to give this summation in English, and then I'm going to go to you first, Illie. Entonces, lo que estaba yo diciendo es bienvenidos a la plática de hoy, jóvenes de color discutiendo y tratando de crear solidaridad para crear mejores trabajos. Como estaba yo diciendo, casi todos hablan español en la lista de gente que están participando y asistiendo. Entonces, vamos a hacer todo en inglés y un poquito en español. So vamos a dar breves resúmenes en español. Disculpe la función de la interpretación. Supuestamente debe de funcionar, pero no está funcionando hoy. No me aparece el aparatito. So vamos a seguir adelante. We're going to start with you first, Illie. So speak maybe 5, 6, 7 sentences, pause a bit. Eva will give a summation in Spanish and then keep going. Thank you so much for your patience. Really glad to have you, Illie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Leone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for your time. My name is Illie Benton, and today I will be giving a presentation on youth of color, building solidarity for jobs.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Illie Benton y hoy voy a estar dando una presentación sobre los trabajos de jóvenes y haciendo solidaridad.
As a reminder, this is a part 2 from the original webinar titled Youth of Color United for Jobs. This webinar, we wanted to dig deeper into the unity portion when it comes to youth of color and jobs. So one thing I mentioned last webinar was what it means to be a minority. And I gave the definition of minority. And the definition of minority is a culturally, ethnically, or racially distinct group that coexists with, but is subordinate to a more dominant group. I'm reading again, a culturally, sorry.
Bueno, y como les quería recordar, esta es la segunda parte del taller de la semana pasada, donde estuvimos hablando del mismo tema, pero en esta ocasión nos queremos ir más a profundidad sobre qué es la unidad. La última sesión mencionamos que era una minoría y básicamente la definición de una minoría es un grupo étnico que es un grupo menor debajo del grupo de un grupo más grande. Y lo voy a volver a repetir.
Thank you. I'm going to read the definition one more time. It is a culturally, ethnically, or racially distinct group that coexists with, but is subordinate to a more dominant group. The 2 words I really want to focus on in that definition of minority is coexist and subordinate. Coexist means to exist within, and subordinate means lower in rank in comparison to a more dominant group.
Y quiero recalcar que la definición es un grupo que es étnico o racial, donde vive o coexiste, pero vive debajo de la regla de un grupo de que es mayoría. Y lo que hoy me quiero enfocar es alrededor de la palabra coexistir y estar debajo de. Eso se refiere a vivir debajo de un sistema o instituciones que son representadas de otro grupo que es la mayoría.
In terms of coexisting and being subordinate, when you're talking about being in the system, I think the biggest thing towards change and achieving change is recognizing the problem, recognizing the situation that you are in. So I think it's very important to just recognize that we are a minority group to a more subordinate. We are subordinate to a more dominant group. And this brings me to my next point about division. Solidarity, the opposite of division, the opposite of solidarity is division. And whenever you divide something up, it's easier to control. It makes it easier to accomplish. It's easier to recognize things when you divide things up.
Y lo que queremos hablar cuando nos referimos al cambio, queremos estar claros de cuál es el problema, cuál es la situación o las condiciones en las cuales vivimos. La importancia de reconocer la situación en la que estamos nos ayuda a entender cuál es la visión. Una de las cosas cuando hablamos de reconocer esta situación, cuando nos referimos en las condiciones socioeconómicas en las cuales nos encontramos, es la división y la táctica de división, lo cual hace más fácil el controlar o mantener el control.
Division has always been the key to control. And I mentioned division because the dominant group is dividing minorities in order to conquer. The term divide and conquer has been a term around for eons and eons and eons. I know everyone on this webinar has probably heard the term divide and conquer. And a great example of this is a book I read in elementary school, maybe around 5th or 6th grade. And forgive me if I have some of the details wrong, but the book was titled Animal Farm. And in this book, the king or the leader of the animals within the farm got killed in the beginning. And basically the whole book was based upon the animals within the farm fighting amongst each other, sabotaging each other, doing things to each other in war with each other in order to try to be this king, try to be the best, try to be number one. Little did they know or little did they realize there's a farmer, and at the end of the day, they were going to be used for profit, and they were going to be used to produce, and they're going to be used, they slaughtered at the end of the day, if even so. They were in this whole war amongst each other, and there was a farmer that didn't even know there was a war, didn't even pay attention to the war, didn't even know these animals are doing these such things, and this whole time, these animals are nearly at war with each other.
Y lo que queremos mencionar alrededor de la división es que es una táctica que es utilizada por un grupo dominante y todos conocemos el término de dividir para conquistar. Esta táctica de dominancia que se ha utilizado durante toda la historia. Esto me recuerda de un libro que leí durante el 5º o 6º grado. Se llama La Granja de Animales, Animal Farm. Y es básicamente, en el libro explora estos animales se pelean entre sí para tratar de ser como el número 1 o conquistar. Pero al final se les olvida que existen los granjeros, que existen los que corren estas granjas. Y que al final de cuentas, todos ellos, independientemente de qué tipo sean, van a ser utilizados para ganancias, los van a matar, como es en una granja. Entonces, esto era parte de lo que queríamos mencionar.
This animal farm example is used because it is a great example or representation of exactly what happens in society. You have a group of minorities or people who are subordinate to a more dominant group. You have this group of animals that are fighting amongst each other to be the king, and it's a farmer in a house that's going to sleep every day, not even knowing what's going on amongst the animals. So that's a good representation, and that brings me to another part of comparing oppressions amongst minority groups. Minority groups have a habit of constantly blaming other racial groups for problems. Minority groups just have a habit of always pointing a finger and not looking at the bigger picture, not looking at that there is a farmer, that we are subordinate to a more dominant group, and that competition is not the key to beating a more dominant group, because competition is not enough to beat this more dominant group. We have competition in many places, and one of the places we have competition is in the workplace. They're taking these jobs. They're taking these jobs, but the bigger picture that we need to be looking at as a minority group is, why aren't there enough jobs? This dominant group has the control of providing the jobs. They have the money and the control and the power to provide these jobs for the minority group, and the jobs are not provided at a high enough rate. And instead of proposing the question of why there are not enough jobs, minorities choose to sometimes focus on the fact that another group can potentially have a job, instead of focusing on the big picture.
Entonces es importante, este libro es importante en términos de cómo representa la sociedad entre el grupo de minorías y el grupo dominante. Creo que es importante, que me lleva al segundo punto alrededor de comparando opresiones o las actitudes que a veces tenemos la tendencia de hacer cuando estamos buscando oportunidades, y en vez de, por ejemplo, cuestionar el porqué de las cosas, buscamos la culpa entre nosotros o buscamos ciertas diferencias dentro de nuestras comunidades para culpar o buscar culpabilidad. Y es este como sentido de competición alrededor de trabajos, pero de que no hay suficientes trabajos, pero nunca es el cuestionamiento sobre el por qué no hay suficientes trabajos, no necesariamente por parte de nuestras comunidades, sino de las instituciones que tienen el poder y que tienen el dinero para crear trabajos suficientes para todos.
So the opposite of being divided and conquered by this more dominant group would be unity. Unity amongst the minority groups in order to accomplish a bigger goal. The only way to beat a system is unity amongst people. It's always better to have more people than less people divided up into different groups. As a minority, it's very important for us to become one. And it starts with being multiculturally competent and having multicultural competence. And what I mean by that is knowing the boundaries of other races, and just being able to coexist with other cultures. That's a thing that a lot of people that are stuck in a certain living situation don't get the experience to. They don't get a chance to experience other cultures, so they just don't know. It's just the fear of the unknown, and this is where a lot of these stereotypes and a lot of these feelings towards certain racial groups comes from. It's just the fear of the unknown. But being multiculturally competent will allow minority groups to coexist more comfortably within each other.
La cosa que opone la división es la unidad, y para poder llegar a una meta grande es estar todos unidos, y para sobresalir este sistema también tenemos que unirnos unos con nosotros, y esto empieza con entender y tener la sabiduría de las diferentes culturas, y también conociendo las barreras que tienen estas otras culturas nos ayuda a coexistir con unos a los otros. Y muchas de las veces cuando uno no tiene ese entendimiento, nuestras reacciones salen del no saber, y eso causa a veces un poco de miedo, pero conociendo unos a los otros, entendiendo las diferentes culturas y las diferentes barreras de todas las personas, nos podemos unir y trabajar juntos.
And last but definitely not least, it starts with the youth. The youth is considered the new cycle to a new generation, to a new society, in order to build the generation or potentially tear it down. So I'm going to say it starts with the youth. We do need wisdom from elders and wisdom from people older than us who have more experience than us. Wisdom is very needed because history repeats itself. So if you know what happened in the history, it can be much easier to prevent what happened in history if you are aware of what happened, because you know how to defeat it, you know how to change it, you know how to, like I said, ultimately change it. So elders are definitely needed for wisdom, definitely. But it starts with the youth. It's up to us. And being a youth of color, you already have two odds against you. You're young and you are a minority in society. So I say this to say, in order to beat the system or change the system, we have to come together as one. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Y luego, por último, pero no por menos, el cambio empieza con los jóvenes, empieza este nuevo ciclo con nuevas generaciones y poder quebrar la sociedad en donde vivimos, pero también la sabiduría de la gente que es más grande que nosotros o la gente mayor nos ayuda a entender y poder tener estrategia para pelear este sistema, porque la sabiduría que ellos tienen nos enseña que la historia se repite y podemos crear juntos para pelear eso. Así es que la sabiduría de las personas que son mayores en este movimiento ayuda a que los jóvenes puedan hacer cambios, pero también siendo jóvenes de color crean o tienen muchas barreras. Y otra vez un paso importante de esto es ser unidos para poder cambiar este sistema.
Thank you very much, Illie. Muchas gracias, Illie. Before I go on, I also just want to say how impressed I am with Eva and Chris, our interpreters from Somos Sur, because it's extremely difficult to remember a bunch of sentences in a row. Just to translate is not easy, but they're remembering like a bunch of sentences. And it takes a tremendous amount of work. So I'm reminded as I listen to you, and thank you so much. Once again, thanks to anyone who just got on recently. The interpretation function is not working, so we're doing English, Spanish. Those of us who are bilingual can do both. And those who speak English, like Illie did, please just pause every once in a while. Estoy diciendo que muchas gracias porque la función de interpretación, de traducción, el globito abajo no aparece en la pantalla hoy. Hemos tratado de repararlo ya un poco antes de empezar hoy en la tarde, pero no pudimos. Entonces, muchas gracias por la paciencia a todos. Si eres bilingüe, uno como yo y muchos en esta llamada, pueden gozar porque pueden escuchar todo 2 veces y suena bien bonito. Muchas gracias, Illie. Era una presentación bien interesante. Thank you very much, Illie. That was a really great presentation. Now we're going to go to our second co-presenter, and then we'll go into the discussion. And we will go move to Kevin Anzures. And then I'll say this in Spanish in a second, Kevin, but I leave it up to you. I know you're perfectly bilingual because I know you and your family very well. If you, for some reason, want to focus and stay in one language or the other, that's fine. If you feel comfortable mixing, going back and forth between Spanish and English, that would be wonderful. We can give our interpreters a little break. I leave that up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with, because we didn't plan for this. So I'm going to go to you in a second. Kev, I'm just going to finish in Spanish here. Nomás le estoy diciendo al joven Kevin Anzures que ahorita va a hablar, va a ser el copresentador número 2. Él es bilingüe, yo lo conozco bien y conozco a su familia, pero le dije que si él quiere hablar en los 2 idiomas, bienvenido. Si se siente mejor en un idioma y Eva y Chris debe de traducir, él puede decidir. So, Kevin, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Kevin Anzures, as you probably know, because of the webinars like section of the two panelists, or the two co-host panelists. Hola, buenas tardes, mi nombre es Kevin Anzures. Probablemente ya saben eso porque yo soy uno de los dos presentantes o presentadores dentro de esta junta hoy en la tarde. So right now, the first thing that I want to say is that unity between different races might not be the most feasible thing. And also, I am sorry about the ambient noises. So ahorita lo que dije fue que quería empezar con decir que la unidad o tratar de encontrar un método de cómo se puede unir las dos diferentes los dos diferentes tipos de personas que están en este tópico, que no va a ser tan fácil por la razón que hay muchos diferentes problemas. So that's my first point.
Kevin, you
second-
know, sorry, Kevin, you know that we can't see you, right?
Oh, yes, there's.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
If
you're doing it on purpose, that is totally fine. I just wanted to make sure you weren't having a problem. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm doing it on purpose. I'm sorry. So, that was my brief first point. Ese fue mi primer punto, que fue breve. So, my next point is just basically going a little more into detail how trying to come together for better jobs, knowing that unity is not going to be easy or easily feasible. It may become more of a challenge later on, and it's definitely not going to be, again, as I said, it's going to become very difficult to do so if competition, as Illie mentioned beforehand, continues to happen between the two races. Ahora, lo que dije fue que, como había dicho anteriormente, que tratar de encontrar unidad entre las dos diferentes, entre latinos y personas de descendencia africana, será un poco difícil por la razón que puede seguir la competición que había dicho o mencionado anteriormente Illie Benton, que por esa razón que si sigue la competición entre las dos diferentes razas, será un poco difícil en tratar de encontrar la unidad en el futuro. So, entonces, sería mejor unirse o tratar de posponer esas diferencias para que se puedan unir. So what I added on to what I just said in Spanish was that in order for us to find more solidarity, as stated in the title, is for us to put our differences aside in order for us to find a common ground, to come together and try to find a solution for better jobs, not even just better jobs, just a better world to live in, especially here in America. So lo que también agregué ahorita de lo que había dicho anteriormente en inglés fue que al poner las diferencias al lado, uno se puede encontrar en una área en donde sí se puede encontrar, en donde uno como diferentes personas de diferentes etnias, entonces ahí se puede encontrar un lugar en donde sí se puede, como diferentes personas pueden encontrar algo que se puede relacionar entre uno mismo y otra persona. Entonces, si se hace eso, sí se puede llegar a lograr encontrar o hacer trabajos mejores, pero también dije que no nomás trabajos mejores. Se puede hacer que se puede encontrar un mundo mejor si se hace eso. So in trying to put our differences aside, which is going to be difficult, we can, again, as I said, find better jobs or make better jobs in general, in order for us to end the competition, for there to not be any sort of competition at all, which is basically ending, and then trying to push that common ground so it doesn't just include Latin Americans and African Americans in the United States. It could include many nationalities. So ahora lo que dije fue que en tratar de empujar esa área en donde se pueden relacionar entre entre las dos personas de color, entonces se puede encontrar que hay esa área se puede expandir para tratar a agarrar más personas de diferentes nacionalidades para que podamos hacer trabajos más mejores para todos, no nomás las dos diferentes nacionalidades. Se puede hacer para todas las personas para que no haya tanta competición. Entonces ese fue mi segundo punto. That was my second point. Ahora mi tercer punto es que en tratar de discutir o hacer una discusión con otra persona en cómo esto se puede volver en un problema, de tratar de poner nuestras diferencias al lado, o tratar de tener una área más común en donde se pueden relacionar fácilmente. Hay más problemas que fueron puestos anteriormente por diferentes personas, o nomás por ser como líneas que no se pueden cruzar entre las diferentes nacionalidades que viven en los Estados Unidos. So what I just said was that trying to discuss like the differences, or trying to have a discussion about putting our differences aside, there may be more problems included in that discussion because of different like boundaries or lines that have already been placed by people prior to us. So in trying to discuss this or trying to find a common ground, it may not be as easy because there's already so much like hate between Latin folk and African American people. And so in having some sort of a civil discussion, like how many people have in classes, including myself, we had a bunch of discussions in my classes. There may be more problems generated than solutions. So lo que había dicho es que en tratar de hacer una discusión se puede causar más problemas que soluciones. Y en tratar de hacer esa discusión para poder empujar un cambio positivo, como había dicho, se pueden causar más problemas. So I think that was pretty much it. Pienso que fue todo lo que yo tenía que decir.
Okay, Kevin, thank you very much. I'll just let Chris and Eva know that I'm gonna go to Kevin Johnson next in a moment. So we will need interpretation, Spanish interpretation. So thank you very much to Kevin Anzures. Really appreciate it, Kevin. And I know, you were really making an effort to touch on difficult topics, right? That we often don't want to talk about. We tend to shy away talking about, any kind of racial divisiveness. But, I think only in talking about it, and we're not going to do a lot about it tonight, but we can at least talk a little. But unless we talk about those things, we're not going to be able to really unite and get some changes that both of our communities desperately need. I'm gonna go to you in just one second, Kevin Johnson. Let me translate that. Nomás estaba agradeciendo a Kevin Anzures por sus palabras y también dije que yo respeto el hecho de que él tocó el tema de qué tan difícil es discutir la división racial que existe, y como él dice que nosotros no creamos, sino en un sentido se le ha creado para poner entre nuestros grupos para precisamente hacer todo más difícil. Pero yo nomás agregué que yo creo que solamente tocando ese tema difícil vamos a poder realmente unirnos, tener una solidaridad para que las dos comunidades avancemos. Entonces, muchas gracias por la paciencia. Aquí también no hay como alguien que tiene derecho, otro que no tiene derecho. Todos están ofreciendo su opinión honesta. So everyone here, there's not like a right and wrong. We're not Jeopardy here. It's people are talking about things that they want to express, things that and it's all done in the spirit of, we want to come out of today and then a whole bunch more days working together with a way that we can really win a lot of better things. So I really appreciate everyone's honesty. With great, pride, I introduce our first comments coming after the presenters from Kevin Johnson. I've been really honored to get to know this young brother, really, really great person, along with Illie, Kevin Anzures, and all the other folks, but really, really excited to have met Kevin. He's been an activist with us, and he's soon going to be joining our staff on a half-time basis, organizing with us around the issue of jobs and housing. So we're really happy to keep supporting him in his great work. Ahora vamos a escuchar unas palabras de Kevin Johnson. Y él ha sido activista con nosotros por un tiempo, y él pronto va a estar empezando a trabajar medio tiempo con nosotros para ayudarnos a organizar a la gente alrededor de mejores trabajos y vivienda. So Kevin Johnson, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Leone, for the welcoming introduction. I don't even know if I deserve that just yet, but I appreciate it. Hello and good evening to everyone else. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to our two main presenters, Kevin Anzures and Illie Benton.
Gracias, Leonel, por la presentación. No sé si me lo merezco todavía, pero muchas gracias, te lo agradezco mucho. También le quiero dar gracias a mis copresentadores, a Illie y Kevin Anzures.
So first, I want to touch bases on just commenting specifically on what Kevin and Illie were talking about in their presentations, which goes back to youth of color fighting for better jobs and being able to be placed into those better opportunities. As each one of them said, one of the largest things that we have in common between people of color that we seem to tend to go against each other with is competition is healthy, but it's not healthy when we're pushing against one another and not pushing for one another. So one, I just wanted to touch on that because that was actually one of my main points. And my camera may disappear here because a lot of my notes are in my phone, and I'm going to be reading from there, so bear with me, please.
También quiero hablar un poco de lo que mencionó Kevin y Illie cuando ellos compartieron, y eso se refiere a los jóvenes de color que están peleando para mejores trabajos. Yo estoy de acuerdo con ellas en que un problema en común que tenemos como personas de color es que estamos en competición, y a veces la competición es saludable, pero no cuando nos pone uno contra los otros. Y ese es uno de los puntos de que yo quería compartir. También, perdón por mi cámara, a lo mejor no funcione, pero gracias por su paciencia.
So we talked about Illie and Kevin so well talked about what the issue is, but What we seem not to be talking about is what we need to do in order to change it, more so in a specific manner, less so in a broad perspective. So, of course, we all know that this means preparing kids for college to receive high quality credentials, good jobs, decent pay, and hopefully we can continue to help them in work based learning experiences like internships, apprenticeships, job pays, community organizing jobs. To benefit most of these experienced students must be prepared for them as long as before they reach high school. So the biggest thing that I've noticed after researching and just digging more and more into this topic, which is we need to be touching our youth at a younger age. With starts with mentoring programs in our schools. It also starts with having low quality programs that are based out of community centers as well, to be able to help youth of people of color and also youth of color, because it starts specifically there. 6th through 8th grade, I currently work as a mentor, also working for CNH, Chicago Ability Organization, and we work hand in hand with working with youth, specifically ages 6th through 8th grade as well. And one of the largest things that I've learned from while working with them is that youth between that age are very impressionable, and it takes a lot of energy as well as a lot of passion to be able to guide our youth into the right directions. I almost forgot we were translating there. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I will do my best to capture everything. If I miss anything, Kevin, please repeat it so I can make sure I relay that message.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
It's okay. Lo que le dije a Kevin es que si hay algo que no pude compartir o que no capturé en la interpretación, que por favor me lo deje saber y para repetirlo a todos ustedes. Entonces, compartió Kevin que cuando Kevin y Ivy hablaron de los problemas que están pasando ahorita, algo de que no fue mencionado es de qué son cosas que podemos hacer. Sabemos que en la gran esquema hay diferentes cosas que se pueden hacer, pero hablando localmente, algo muy importante es para preparar a los jóvenes para trabajos, para el colegio y para diferentes experiencias en trabajos. Cuando crezcan es asegurar de que entiendan lo que necesitan que hacer y los diferentes pasos que se tienen que tomar. Y esto puede empezar con programas basados en centros comunitarios que pueden apoyar a los jóvenes de color, entender el ambiente del trabajo. Yo trabajo por una organización en Chicago. Perdón, intérprete no pudo capturar el nombre de la organización, pero dijo Kevin que él trabaja en una organización en Chicago que trabaja con jóvenes del grado 6º al 8 y que lo que ha reconocido es que jóvenes en estas edades son bien impresionantes y es una oportunidad de poder enseñarles estos diferentes espacios con paciencia, porque estas son las edades importantes donde pueden capturar todo eso y poder desarrollar.
So just to highlight a few of the programs that I personally looked up, like I said, I really want to talk more about specifics and exactly the type of programs that we can be placing our youth in order to lead them to the possible success. So just some of the programs that I know offhand, which are CYP, Chicago Youth Programs. We have After School Matters, and they're in endless amounts of different youth programs. You also have a program like I'm working with, Teen Reach, that works with CNH, like I said, CNH, Centers for New Horizons organization. And that's just to name a few of the different organizations that are currently active besides Working Solidarity Families that are currently active in fighting against this cause. I pretty much want to end my comments by saying the reason why we're having this conversation today is not one to just bring awareness to the topic, but also to have you all that's attending to be able to ask us very good questions so we can hopefully come back next time when we have this conversation again and have answers to those questions, as well as be able to use that information or use the questions you all are asking us to be able to challenge ourselves to learn more in the field and continue to grow in the field that we're working in. So we appreciate you all for coming again and hope to hear your questions in just a moment. And then that would be it for me. Thank you.
Entonces, uno de los programas que me gustaría darle énfasis son unos programas comunitarios que son específicamente para los jóvenes, para apoyarles en ser líderes y poder sobresalir en sus carreras. Y uno de estos programas es CYP, que es Centro para Jóvenes en Chicago. After School Matters, que traduce a programas después de escuela son importantes y también como los diferentes programas con que yo trabajo, como Teen Reach, que también trabaja con Center for New Horizons, un centro para nuevas oportunidades. Y hay diferentes organizaciones, no nomás Working Family Solidarity, que también son parte de este trabajo que pueden apoyar a los jóvenes. Y mis comentarios finales son que estas conversaciones no nomás son para saber lo que está pasando, pero sino para que ustedes como personas que están participando en este webinario pueden hacernos preguntas y retarnos en el trabajo que estamos haciendo, porque eso es lo que nos ayuda a nosotros crecer y desarrollar nuestro trabajo. Así es que les quiero dar muchas gracias por ser parte de esto y por favor hagan las preguntas que necesiten para que cuando regresemos les podamos tener esas respuestas y podamos desarrollar un poco más el trabajo que estamos haciendo.
Thank you very much, Chris, interpreting, and thank you very much to Kevin Johnson. Muchísimas gracias a Chris, que está interpretando, y muchas gracias a Kevin Johnson por sus comentarios. Now we're going to, let's see here, go down my list here. Okay, so I was about to go to Sabir, but I don't see him. Maybe he had a time issue there. Okay, I was gonna, we'll come back to him. We'll go to someone who might be able to give our interpreters a break here. Maybe that's a good idea. Marvin, if it's okay, I'm gonna go to you. I don't know if your Spanish is fluent, but because I've only spoken to you in English, but I would urge you, if you do speak Spanish, to go ahead and speak both languages. But that's totally up to you. Please feel comfortable doing whatever you feel the most comfortable with. Okay, if you need the translation, no problem. And if you don't, then just go back and forth however you want to. Estamos muy agradecidos que tenemos también con nosotros aquí Marvin López. Él ahora va a hablar, va a agregar unos comentarios también sobre el tema. Please go ahead, Marvin.
Thank you very much. I think I would just need translation, a couple of 1 or 2 words, and that's it. Pienso que no voy a necesitar traslación, 1 o 2 pocas palabras. Bueno, mi nombre es Marvin y yo antes trabajaba, como mencioné la última vez en la otra junta, que yo trabajaba como un busboy y pienso que es una manera en que no es un trabajo que tienes que poner el cheque y tienes que es más ágil en que tienes que trabajar con los demás gente y los clientes que vienen entrando. Like what I said before, thank you. Like what I said in the meeting beforehand, before and last time, I used to be a busboy in which I used to interact more with people, since you would need to be hand in hand with communication and everything. I haven't really experienced any type of racial discrimination based on job and any sort of that area. Yo no he pasado por un tipo de discriminación durante cuando estaba pasando la aplicación de trabajo, pero sí he visto que estas cosas han pasado en que son cosas negativas y afectan a mucha gente negativamente. I've seen these situations happen where people have been discriminated racially because they would be either doing the job or they would be applying for jobs, and it would be affecting them majorly. And I recently had a job interview at a feet fleet store, in which the store associates are now taking into consideration when they're doing their applications of how we are as the person who is going to get into the position where we're going to get into, where they look for qualities if we are transparent or not. Y apenas fui a una entrevista hoy de trabajo en que cuando fui a la entrevista, la manager, la dueña, para decir, fue la que me hizo la entrevista. Gerente, gracias. El gerente me hizo la entrevista en que están buscando empleados para que tengan una personalidad en consideración de las demás y piensan en que si no están discriminando a las personas o algo así y están agarrando like I don't want to say forgot the word. They're hiring people to like, what's it called? Forget. Bueno, el punto que quiere decir es que están tratando de contratar personas en que no sean personas que discriminan a una persona por su etnicidad o su género, por su género, en que son iguales a todos y tratan a todos iguales. Y estoy viendo que esto está pasando más hoy en día, pero también está pasando más de racism en el día en que la gente no le importa a veces como el racismo, como a la gente a veces no le importa de que las opiniones están dañando a los demás o no. I was also saying that I see a lot during this time, I see more people or more workplaces that are working with people who like consider like whether or not if they are transparent to others, seeing if they would end up like hurting others or not racially, in which they do not want to hire those type of people, and they want people to like to work efficiently and also treat the customers and their co-workers equally within each other. And I think pretty much that's it, because I don't have much what's it called? I don't have much information around that background of like racial inequality and stuff like that. Yo pienso que esto es lo poco que yo tengo de ofrecer porque no he experimentado nada como una aplicación de trabajo recientemente.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marvin. Appreciate it. Muchas gracias, Marvin. Vamos a seguir. We'll just keep going here. Thanks again for everyone's patience. Muchas gracias por la paciencia de todos. Vamos a seguir. So we will go ahead. I think we have one more person, Luis. I don't know if you're ready to go, and I don't know if you feel comfortable doing both languages. But I am going to turn to you. I'm just going to say that in Spanish. Aquí también tenemos a Luis Anzures. Luis, si quieres empezar, por favor.
Thank you. My bad. I'm not as fluent as my family, so I would need interpretation. From what I've heard lately, since this is kind of my first time touching with this type of topic, well, specifically this topic, I can for sure agree with the other panelists that were presenting before me. So.
Hola, muy buenas tardes, muchas gracias. Voy a ocupar el servicio de interpretación porque no soy muy fluente y es mi primera vez hablando aquí sobre este tema.
For sure, beginning with the youth and showing them that this is really a big issue with, you know, not having competition, and instead of trying to have continue issues that have already begun with our elders that really take influence on us. Yeah.
Estoy de acuerdo con lo que los compas había dicho sobre los trabajos y la competición. también en términos de hablar con nuestras personas más grandes que nosotros, que tienen experiencia.
Like Marvin, I've had experience with being a busboy and with other customers, and yeah, the interview wise, it just doesn't go well, really, depending on what type of color or race you are, or how you come off as, just based on your personality or how you act. Most people tend to base off their opinions or their mentality with their experiences, and it just really doesn't mix well when it comes to jobs and the youth.
Igual como Marvin, yo también he trabajado como postboy o la persona que ayuda a recoger los platos de los restaurantes. Y en términos de las entrevistas, a veces no va muy bien. A veces la gente te trata como te ven, basados en cómo ellos ven el mundo, sus experiencias que les han enseñado. Y cuando viene a la juventud, eso a veces no es muy bueno.
I can't really contribute much to this conversation since I don't have much to say. So I think that will be my bit in this topic. Sorry for the inconvenience, for not knowing much.
Y no puedo hablar mucho sobre no tengo mucho que contribuir porque no puedo hablar mucho sobre el tema, pero pues eso es lo que he pasado. Gracias por el espacio y creo que sería todo.
Well, no, thank you very much, Luis. We appreciate it very much, man. You weren't in on the first talk, so you're kind of jumping in on the second one, and we appreciate it very much. Muchas gracias a Luis. Él no pudo participar en la primera presentación que tuvimos a finales de julio, entonces él está entrando hoy para también echar una mano. So then I want to circle back, first before we move ahead to Illie. I want to go first back to you, and then I'll come to you next, Kevin. So Kevin Anzures, the first the main presenters. So after hearing, you spoke, Illie, then you've heard a whole bunch of other people speak. I don't know if I don't want to give you a certain thing, but maybe some particular thing you were hearing made you want to say, to kind of comment or say something else. If you want, or any other comment that you want to add now that a few people have spoken. And let me just say that in Spanish real quick, Illie, and then I'll go right to you. Nomás, yo quiero regresar entonces a Illie, que empezó con la primera presentación, que ahora ella ya ha tenido chance de escuchar a varias personas más echando comentarios, y yo nomás quiero saber si eso le hizo a ella pensar en algo más tocante la unidad, solidaridad, entre jóvenes de color y el tema de los trabajos. Illie, if you wanted to kind of have any further point in the discussion, please.
I'm going to visit something that I seen in the chat. Give me 1 second. I want to put it up. My grandma actually, Sharon Morris said, one issue not discussed is ageism as a barrier. Older people getting in the way of change, positions, qualifications, training, etc. And I think that's a very important point to make because throughout this question, now that you say that, I did focus a lot on the racial portion of it and not more so on the age portion of it. And ageism is a real thing when it comes to discrimination. And as she mentioned, older people, elderly people getting in the way of youth progression is a problem that definitely can be discussed because, as I mentioned, we do need the wisdom of our elders, but there is definitely a lot of competition when it comes to ageism and things like that. And we can be unified within that aspect also because, like I said, elderly can be used to guide the youth, give them wisdom, help them get to the next step in life. And also elderly people, more specifically minority elderly people, some become very comfortable and competent in certain jobs and certain atmospheres, certain ways of living and it's a part of the oppression system that we've been living in for so long. It's the norm. We some of people in the minority group get in these certain positions, making a certain amount of dollars an hour, say, hey, that's enough. I'm taking care of my family. I don't need to progress. I don't need to go. I apologize. Sorry. Sorry. I'm so sorry. That's her, but I'm so sorry.
You're good. You're just saying really great things and I want to make sure I capture them all. Una de las cosas que quería revisar era alrededor sobre la discriminación basada en edad. Y la actitud de mantener o prevenir el progreso de la juventud. En particular, hablamos sobre el aspecto racial y la discriminación que existe alrededor de las razas, pero también hay una discriminación basada de edad, de que a veces sucede por partes de personas adultas que están en ciertas posiciones de poder y tal vez están un poco ya más cómodas o más tienen más habilidades y mantienen ciertos desarrollos o oportunidades de desarrollo de los jóvenes o jóvenes que están tratando de participar. Y esta actitud de comodidad es parte del sistema opresivo en el cual vivimos. Es esta habilidad de hacer sentir a la gente cómoda y normalizarla en las comodidades. Es parte de la normalización que existe en este sistema.
Thank you so much. And yes, I do agree that age is definitely something in the conversation that we have to key in more when it comes to the progression of youth in our society. Like I said, elderly should be used as wisdom and guidance, and minority elderly or not even elderly people middle age or not considered youth anymore definitely become very competent and very comfortable in certain living conditions. And I believe that we can progress more if we become hungrier and strive for success more. Thank you.
Y creo que es esto que hablamos sobre la discriminación de los jóvenes es algo que debemos de mantener en vista y tenemos que seguir apoyando. Es importante apoyar a la juventud en su desarrollo, no solamente la gente de tercera edad o gente que se conoce como gente adulta, pero incluso esas personas que ya no son quizás jóvenes, pero son adultos o nuevos adultos para apoyar el crecimiento de la juventud y eso era lo que tenía que aportar. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Illie. Thank you again, Eva, for all the work translating. Muchas gracias a Illie por los comentarios. Muchas gracias de nuevo a Eva por tanta traducción, tanta interpretación. Kevin Anzures, I wanted to just circle back to you again, since Illie was the first to go. You were the second. A little bit of time has passed. You've heard a bunch of other comments. I just wanted to circle back to you and to keep the discussion going and see if there was some other point that you were thinking of as you listened to the other Kevin and Illie and Marvin and Luis. Nomás estamos regresando con Kevin Anzures para ver si él quiere agregar otro comentario, habiendo escuchado un poco más de los comentarios de los demás.
Thank you, Leone. Gracias, Leone, por dejarme hacer otro comentario. So, between what everybody was saying and how I was listening and paying attention to everyone's wonderful points, I was thinking how another issue that not only arises in different discussions, in some cases it happens because of age as well, how Illie was mentioning that in this case it would be the opposite. So ahorita lo que dije fue que en escuchar todos los puntos que todos estaban diciendo y cómo eran detalles bastante buenos o comentarios bastante buenos, es que como había dicho Illie o comentó Illie que la edad a veces también se puede volver un problema. Lo que voy a decir es lo contrario. So what I'm going to say next is somewhat the opposite, that in some cases, age that people on the younger side aren't seen as capable people or capable capable youth to give good points, that in some cases youth they're taken seriously. And that becomes a barrier in trying to make or progress youth voice in trying to find better jobs. So ahora lo que dije fue que, como había dicho anteriormente, que el comentario que voy a hacer ahorita es que a veces la edad, mi comentario es a lo contrario de Illie, que a veces la edad es, las edades de jóvenes está tomado en cuenta para hacer sentir a los jóvenes como su voz, o que su voz no es importante, porque a veces las personas adultas miran a los jóvenes y no los creen que tengan la competencia mental para poder para poder maniobrar la vida y hacer trabajos mejores. In trying to have youth speak up but not being listened to about this topic is that in some cases, as I said, youth voice isn't heard necessarily. There might be people like us where we're making Zoom meetings in order to get get their voices heard. But in the world, there's still many more people that don't believe that youth voice isn't particularly effective. There's a bunch of terrible things that happen in the world over the course of a decade, and just in a decade. And it's just, you can see how youth, in some cases, youth voice isn't really heard. So lo que dije ahorita fue que en muchos casos la edad o los jóvenes, las personas más jóvenes, no son tomados seriamente para poder tener o obtener trabajos mejores. Entonces se puede mirar esto en cómo la década que ha pasado, en más de los 10 años que ha pasado, se puede mirar que como a veces la voz de un joven no está tomado seriamente para poder sacarlo para el resto del mundo. Youth voice is being silenced before it can be it's even heard. Que la voz de los jóvenes es silenciada o está puesta en silencio antes de ser oídos por el resto del mundo o del resto del país. El continente. And it becomes an issue in trying to have youth push for better jobs, que se convierte en un problema de tratar tener la juventud empujar para recibir trabajos mejores, por la razón que es silenciada anteriormente, antes de ser escuchada. That in trying to have youth push for better jobs, it's silenced before it's even heard.
Thank you, Kevin. Muchas gracias, Kevin. Now I would like to go back to the other Kevin, back to Kevin Johnson. Just for anything that you want to add. We still have a little more time, so we're going to continue discussing a little bit more. It's kind of just circling back to the people who went first. Now that you've had time to hear others, if there's any particular thing that you want to follow up on, let me just say that in Spanish real quick, Kevin, and then we'll go to you. Ahora, muchas gracias a Kevin Anzures. Ahora vamos a regresar a Kevin Johnson para ver si él, que ya ha tenido chance de escuchar obviamente a más discusión y comentarios después de su comentario y a ver si él quiere agregar cualquier punto. Please go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Leone. I don't think my piggyback will be near as long, but just as valuable. My piggyback, definitely the things that I'm hearing from every one of us is that we have lack of knowledge and lack of resources. And the way to counter that, once again, is each and every single one of us that's either sitting here as panelists today, sitting here as attendees today and listening to our young people talk. This is the call it's not just a Zoom meeting to have a conversation about the topic. This is a call to action. The only way that we really make the change that we're looking for is by giving the knowledge and the resources from meetings like this, organizations that we may know, different outreach programs that we may be involved in our own lives, and bringing those resources to our youth of color. That is the only way that this opportunity to continue to allow our youth of color great education, as long as well as being able to properly prepare them for the workforce and being able to prepare them for the things that come within that, which is the racism, ageism, discrimination. But once again, they can only be prepared for something that they're knowledgeable of. So signing up your kids, talking to your neighbors, talking to the kids at the park, talking to some of your friends, some of your friends, if they have kids, talking to your kids' friends and their parents, and bringing them into these programs, letting them know about working family solidarities, letting them know about CNAs, letting them know about you guys, specific organizations that you're working for, to be able to bring these resources to our youth. Because without the conversation and without the proper knowledge, it's almost a broken cycle. Ooh, I'm sorry, I almost forgot about the interpretation. Once again, here we go. So sorry.
No worries, it's okay. Ok, entonces lo que quiero compartir es que lo que estoy escuchando es que hay una falta de la sabiduría y de los recursos. Cada uno de nosotros como participantes y panelistas tenemos una oportunidad de hacer algo. Estas llamadas no nomás son una junta para hablar de lo que está pasando, pero sino una llamada para acción, para agarrar los diferentes servicios, programas, hacer alcance, conocer de las diferentes organizaciones y traer todos esos recursos para que nuestros jóvenes de color puedan tener acceso a esto y poderse preparar para buena educación y para también prepararse para buenos trabajos, y no nomás poder sobresalir en sus trabajos, pero también entender cómo afecta el racismo o diferentes identidades que tienen. Así es que hablen con sus amigos, amigues, con los hijos que ellos tienen, con el niño que ven en la calle, que es parte de la comunidad, perdón, que es parte de la comunidad, para traerles este conocimiento y presentarles a estos diferentes programas para que puedan tener los recursos para salir adelante y para tener la sabiduría para poder quebrar estos ciclos en donde vivimos en estos sistemas, o en los que vivimos en estos sistemas.
And just to finish this off, I want to finish off my last comment by saying I've grown up in a gang violence, gang infested, quote unquote bad area, growing up in West Inglewood, and being able to be accepted into Whitney Young and the resources that come from that, the difference with the level of care from teachers, the level of care from counselors, the level of care from administration, all the way down the line, it plays an effect. I've watched firsthand how the knowledge that you're able to receive can play a major effect onto a child's life, as well into your own personal life, whether you're a child or an adult. So you use what I'm saying, use what we're saying, and use what we're saying and talking about today in our presentations to go back into your lives and make sure that you're challenging yourselves to be a difference maker. And that will conclude what I'm saying. Thank you.
Entonces, el último punto que me gustaría compartir es que yo crecí en una área que dicen que según es una área que no es muy buena, con muchas gangas, y cuando me aceptaron a mí a un programa y tuve acceso a diferentes recursos, y también tuve acceso a cuidado de maestras y maestros que les importaba y que nos ayudaban, me afectó mucho a mi vida. Así es que teniendo acceso a la sabiduría es una parte grande en la vida de los jóvenes, pero también en nuestras vidas como adultos. Y esto nos ayuda a poder tener estas conversaciones y retarnos unos a los otros para poder crear diferencia en nuestras comunidades. Perdón, no sé si capturé todas las ideas.
I'm just gonna add, I'm gonna come to you in a second, Illie. The one thing he said, that you did interpret, you did translate, Chris, but he said it in a certain way, is the last phrase was to the other panelists and attendees to go out there and be a difference maker. And so Kevin estaba diciendo que todos debemos de salir de esta discusión y de cualquier otro evento en donde estamos aprendiendo y discutiendo y sacando ideas y hacer una diferencia nosotros mismos, cada persona. That was one of his points, and we are going to circle back. We are not going to go a lot longer. We may slide a little past 7:30, but I want to respect people's time. I always tell people 6 to 7:30, so we're going to end at 7:30. We may slide a couple minutes past it, but everyone's been succinct and quick. So I was going to call on Illie as we're getting a little bit late here, because I want to make sure she has a chance to give another comment, not just for a minute like we sometimes do, but for a few minutes. And then I want to see if anyone else wants to. I'm going to give you first a chance, Kevin Anzures, and then I'm going to check back to see if Marvin wanted to say any last thing as well. But primero vamos a ir con Illie. Illie, please go ahead.
I definitely agree with it's going to take us to make the difference. Going back to what Marvin said, you haven't really experienced any racially discrepancies and things like that. I could kind of agree to that. I have been fortunate to be involved in different programs such as basketball, AAU, different schools, being at different high schools around the city that have allowed me to become, as I mentioned in my presentation, multiculturally competent. And I think that's very important when it comes to trying to unify different cultures and different races, learning about other cultures, learning about how to even come together as other cultures. Although we have things within our own culture that have to be changed, I definitely think unifying will definitely eliminate a lot of the problems, if not decrease a lot of the problems that we are having as minorities. Like I said, we are subordinate to a more dominant group. It's just a fact. And why not just be one big minority group instead of separating? And even, like I said, you don't have to be best friends with everybody you work with. Like I said, it's just in conclusion, it's very important for us to come together as just a minority group, because that is very important to be in color. We are already at a disadvantage in society. And in order to overcome this disadvantage, we have to unify. That goes for jobs, that goes for opportunities, education, everything. Thanks.
Entonces me gustaría regresar al punto que compartió Marvin. Es que yo he sido afortunada en poder participar en diferentes programas que me han ayudado, como jugar basquetbol o ser parte de diferentes programas en las escuelas. Me ha ayudado a aprender las diferentes culturas y tener esa sabiduría de cómo funcionan las diferentes culturas y cómo podemos crear relaciones con unos y los otros. Yo pienso que aprendiendo a poder unirnos y trabajar con las diferentes culturas nos va a unir para poder pelear contra todos nuestros problemas o encontrar soluciones para unos o si no todos los problemas que enfrentamos como personas de color. Y en vez de estar divididos, ¿por qué no nos unimos como un grupo grande de minorías para poder pelear contra esto, porque es importante como personas de color ser unidos para poder pelear contra estas desventajas, y no nomás en nuestros trabajos, pero sino también en educación y en diferentes partes de nuestras vidas.
Thank you very much, Illie. Muchas gracias, Illie. Muchas gracias, Chris. Kevin Anzures, did you want to have any last words? Again, we will end at 7:30. We may slide over a little, but we're not going to just kind of blow it up and keep going and going, because I know a lot of people have really timed this 6 to 7:30, so we want to respect that. But we're going to see if Kevin has any. Kevin, si quieres agregar, Kevin Anzures, si quieres agregar unos comentarios. Sí, vamos a terminar a las 7:30 siempre, tal vez un minuto o dos después, but más o menos vamos a terminar a tiempo. Kevin, por favor.
Okay, so I just wanted to really quickly say that we as people, or as individuals in society, we should, or as progressive adults or people that are going into adulthood, we should definitely bring what we have learned, our knowledge, down to the upcoming adults, or down to youth, just in general, in schools, not only just outside of our group of socialization, that we should bring it down to youth that are upcoming as adults. So lo que yo quería decir, lo que dije ahorita fue que nosotros como personas personas individuales que ya estamos yendo en nuestra edad de ser adultos, o tomando los pasos para ser adultos, que tenemos que traer nuestra sabiduría, todo lo que hemos aprendido nosotros, a las personas que son más jóvenes que nosotros, que apenas están tomando sus pasos para ser adultos, que es mejor de sacar esa información fuera de nosotros para que ellos puedan aprender y hacer el cambio, que no nomás seamos nosotros los que tomamos esos pasos para hacer el cambio, que podamos atraer más personas para hacer ese cambio. That what I just said was that not only should we be the ones to cause change or take the steps towards change, that we should share our knowledge, share our experiences with youth or younger youth, in order for us to take that sort of leap forward to initiate a chain of events that will lead to more successful change. Because change may happen, but in some cases it isn't permanent. So lo que dije ahorita fue que en tratar de hacer o tomar esos pasos para que nuestra juventud, la juventud que apenas están tomando esos pasos para sus años de adultos, que ellos, en vez de hacer casi como una cadena de eventos que puede atraer cambio, que es mejor hacer cambio que no va a ser borrado o va a ser tomado como algo que se puede deshacer en el futuro, que es hacer cambio permanente. I think that's just my final point. Ese fue mi último punto.
We're going to end. Muchas gracias, Kevin. Thank you very much, Kevin. We're going to end in about 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half or so. I did want, though, to see Marvin, if you had any last point before we sign off. Anything, it'll need to be pretty brief here. We're a little over time, but I'm gonna give you another minute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say basically the same thing, where I agree with everybody with what everything was said. Yo iba a decir mi otro punto, que yo estoy de acuerdo de todas las personas que habían dicho sus perspectivas y sus soluciones de este problema que todos estamos enfrentando. Yeah, I think just the best solution that we have right now is to just bring awareness and try to treat everyone equally, whether you're the employer or customer, to treat everyone equally and to not group people by their race, ethnicity, gender, etc. Y quise decir que la solución que se está como trayendo es que no tenemos de como hacer grupos de las personas por su género, sexo, por su cómo se identifican y tenemos que tratar a todos igualitos si eres el customer o employer, si eres el empleado o el, I don't know what's the other word. Empleador, yep. Y tenemos que tratar a todos, sí, también. Y tenemos que tratar a todos iguales y es la única solución que tenemos que tratar de poner atención y tratar de eliminar este problema que tenemos. And try to eliminate that one problem that we all face and confront every day.
Thank you very much. And we're going to have to sign off here in a minute. And I do want to apologize to Sabir. I think something happened and you went off. I don't know if that was on your technology, our technology, or you had an urgent thing come up. But we unfortunately are not going to be able to extend this now. But Sabir, you have a standing invitation to join me/us. Whether it's, I'm not sure next month, but sometime soon in the future, I will communicate with you. Sabir talked really well. Our first part one in late July, and you have a standing invitation to come back, Sabir. I know you'll have a lot of good things to say on this or similar topics, but it's a little past time. I like to end at 7:30. Went a little over today because we had a little bit of a problem with the technology. Tuvimos un pequeño problema con la tecnología sobre interpretación. Les agradezco mucho a todos ustedes por su paciencia. Ya vamos a investigar ya para la próxima vez tener todo en orden. So we'll investigate, make sure next time we have everything ready. We thought we did that for this time, but we obviously didn't have everything ready. So I want to thank everyone so much for your time. Quiero agradecer a todos por su tiempo. It was great to have these brothers and sisters with us. Great work. Nilsi and Jeanette that were with us a month ago, unfortunately had a class this evening and could not join us. But this is an important topic. I want to close simply by commenting that Working Family Solidarity was formed to unite low-income, middle-income families, especially African American and Latinx families, to fight together for equitable development. Youth, elderly folks, everyone together. But we also wanted to make sure that we had a place for the youth to express some things last time and this time. And we feel like the discussion and more so working together on campaigns for both of our communities, that's where the rubber really hits the road. But there's nothing wrong with talking a little bit about it, because we're sort of all trained not to talk about it, and that it's a very sensitive subject. So we never want to talk about how we feel about other people, and we never want to talk about the divisiveness that we feel, that we're trained to feel. It's not our fault. We're trained to feel that. We're not born that way, right? But it's something in place that really keeps us from figuring out how the vast majority of us in this world who are not independently wealthy could come together and have better jobs and housing and other things. So thank you so much for listening, for sharing ideas in the chat. Muchas gracias a todos por escuchar, por compartir ideas en chat. Yo conozco a muchos de ustedes y están haciendo grandes cosas también en sus comunidades. I know some people on this call, the attendees, I know you're doing great things in your communities too. And we had people from various communities. So for this evening, for Youth of Color, building solidarity around better jobs, want to thank Illie again, Kevin Anzures again as co-presenters. Thank Kevin Johnson very much. Thank Marvin Lopez very much. Thank Luis Anzures very much. Thanks Sabir as well. But we're going to get Sabir back so we can get more of his knowledge and experience and ideas. So muchas gracias también. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias a Somos Sur, a Chris, y a Eva. Thank you so much to our interpreters, Chris and Eva from Somos Sur, from We Are the South. Really appreciate everyone's patience and your memories are functioning perfectly. Porque se pudieron acordar de casi todas las palabras. So once again, thank you very, very much. All the presenters, people who discussed, Eva, Chris, the interpreters, all of you who joined us this evening. Muchas gracias y que pasen muy buenas noches. Thank you very much and have a great evening. Thank you so much.